You know that specific feeling. The one where you put on a pair of really high-end noise-canceling headphones, you close your eyes, and the rest of the world it just vanishes.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a, a physical sensation of relief, like a sudden depressurization.
Exactly.
I
It's
mean, it's
not just that the construction noise outside stops or the hum of the refrigerator is gone. It feels like you go away.
Mm.
For 3 or 4 minutes, there's no rent to pay. There are no emails to answer. There's no awkward conversation you replayed in your head from 5 years ago. There is just the sound.
And you're somehow dissolved into it.
Yes, dissolved.
Like
That's
a
the word.
completely universal experience, that moment of suspension. But we rarely stop to ask why that happens. We just accept it. We call it listening to music.
Right. Why does a specific arrangement of vibrations in the air, I mean, literally just air molecules bumping into each other, make us feel like we've escaped the trap of being human for a little bit?
Well, that's what we're getting into today.
Today, we are answering that exact question with a source that is, frankly, going to blow your mind. It's a research paper titled Music as the Aperture Between Coherence and Decoherence.
And I could already see you raising an eyebrow at that title. It sounds like a mouthful.
Mouthful. It sounds like something you'd read in a manual for a spaceship warp drive.
Right.
Aperture between coherence and decoherence. I mean, it sounds so dense, maybe a little sci-fi. But as I read through it, I realized this isn't just abstract philosophy.
Not at all.
This is the physics of feelings. It's explaining the actual mechanics of why we need music to, well, to survive.
It really is. And the mission for this deep dive is um, to shift your perspective completely. We usually think of music as entertainment, right?
Yeah, something to pass the time.
Or maybe as a utility, something to help us focus or work out.
Mm-hmm.
But this source argues that music is actually an ontological practice.
Ontological practice. Okay, let's pause on that right away because we promise no unexplained jargon. Ontology is. It's the study of being, of existence itself. So saying music is an ontological practice is a very fancy way of saying practice for being real, right?
Precisely. It implies music isn't just a distraction from life. It is a tool that humans use to navigate the scariest boundary in existence.
And what's that?
The line between order, what the paper calls coherence, and chaos.
Yeah.
Or decoherence.
So the idea that music is the only safe way to fall apart.
Yes, exactly. To experience the dissolution of the self without actually being destroyed. It's all about what the paper calls the void and the slice.
Okay.
And to really understand why music makes us cry or why it gives us chills or makes us feel euphoric, we have to start with the void.
Let's do it. Let's unpack that immediately because those terms void and slice, they are the absolute backbone of this entire theory. So section 1 of our stack today deals with the concept of the void, silence, and potential.
Right.
Now, when this author talks about the void, they aren't talking about a black hole or, just empty space in the universe.
No, and this is a really crucial distinction. In this cosmogony, this origin story of reality that the paper builds, the void is defined as perfect superposition.
Superposition. Okay, that's a quantum physics term.
It is. In quantum mechanics, a particle in superposition is it's in all possible states at once until you measure it, until it's observed.
Right.
So the author applies that same idea to everything. Think of the void as a state where all possibilities coexist simultaneously, but without any distinction between them. Nothing is this or that yet. It's just everything all at once, unmanifested.
So it's not emptiness. It's actually a kind of fullness that hasn't picked a shape yet.
Yes.
Like a block of marble that contains every possible statue inside it, but it hasn't been carved.
That is a great analogy. Or think of white light. White light isn't the absence of color. It's the presence of all colors simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
It only becomes red or blue when you put a prism in front of it to separate them out.
Mm-hmm.
The void is that white light before the prism.
And this brings us to the nature of silence. The source makes a really profound point here. Silence is not the absence of sound.
No.
Silence is the void expressing itself through our human perception. It is undifferentiated potential.
Right. We tend to define silence negatively. We say, oh, it's quiet, meaning sound is missing. But the paper argues that when you truly listen to silence, you aren't hearing nothing. You are hearing the potential for everything.
Wow.
It's the acoustic equivalent of that block of marble. It's heavy with possibility.
I loved this part because it totally changes how you sit in a quiet room. It's not empty. It's pregnant with sound that just hasn't happened yet.
And there's a fascinating neurological connection here, too. The paper references the brain's default mode network.
Ah, yeah, this is what the brain does when we aren't doing anything, right? When we're just spacing out.
Exactly. It's the state your brain goes into when it's not focused on a specific task. It's undirected potential. It's daydreaming, it's mind-wandering, it's associating ideas. Silence correlates to that state.
Because it has no pulse.
No pulse, no sequence, no narrative. It's related to this concept of aeon, or quaternal simultaneity. In that state, time doesn't really flow in a line, it just kind of sits there.
Eternal simultaneity. That sounds peaceful, almost like floating in one of those sensory deprivation tanks. But here's where it gets really interesting and a little dark.
Right.
The source argues that we actually can't handle silence. Not for long.
That's the danger of the void. We are beings of distinction. Our consciousness, our very self, requires things to be separate. Me versus you, up versus down, sound versus quiet.
We need contrast.
We need contrast. If you stay in pure, absolute silence, like in one of those anechoic chambers where it's just dead silent, it doesn't feel peaceful forever. After a while, it starts to feel disturbing.
Right. I've read about those chambers. People report that they can hear their own blood rushing or their heart beating, and then the brain just starts hallucinating.
And starts making things up.
Yeah, because it's starting for input.
Exactly. The brain is a difference engine. It needs patterns to understand reality. And without patterns, what the text calls a slice, consciousness begins to dissolve. We need coherence to survive.
So we need to slice that infinite potential into manageable pieces just to exist.
We have to. If we look directly at the void for too long, we literally lose ourselves.
That is terrified and fascinating at the same time. It suggests that reality, as we know it, is basically a defense mechanism against the chaos of everythingness.
That's one way to put it. We carve out a safe space, which leads us perfectly into the second section of the paper. The first distinction, or the concepts of the ache and the slice.
Okay, this is where the philosophy got weirdly emotional for me. The paper describes the act of creating reality, of observing the void and turning it into something real as breaking symmetry.
Yes. When observation breaks that symmetry, the void becomes manifest. Reality is created through constraints. By saying, this is a chair, you are implicitly saying, this is not a table, not a dog, not a star, not a cloud.
You are limiting it.
You're limiting it. To define something is to constrain it. But, and this is the crucial part, the text describes this process as violent.
Violent. That's such a strong word for just noticing things.
I know, but it makes sense when they explain it. It creates an ache at the heart of existence. The paper references the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead here, calling it the wound that separates potential from actual.
It's a wound.
Think about it.
Yeah.
To be something means you are no longer everything else. You've been cut off from that infinite potential of the void.
And then that separation hurts.
That separation hurts. That's the ache.
That is so heavy. The idea that just being a specific person in a specific place carries this fundamental wound because we're separated from the whole. It's like a kind of existential loneliness.
It is. And most of our lives, we're trying to fix this ache. We try to fill the void. We work, we build houses, we use logic to categorize things. We try to make our slice of reality permanent.
We apply more constraints. We try to build more and more structure to feel safe from that dissolution. We build walls, literally and metaphorically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But music offers a completely different solution. It operates in the space between constraint and release.
And it starts with the first tone.
Yes. The paper describes a single musical tone as the gentlest possible operation of the aperture.
This is such a beautiful image. Imagine that scary, hallucination-inducing silence we just talked about, the void that wants to swallow you whole. Now imagine a single note just hums into existence, a cello string being bowed in the dark.
That tone introduces just one constraint, a specific frequency.
A pitch.
A pitch. It breaks the silence, but it doesn't threaten your identity. It's a slice, but a tiny one. Just says, here's a sound. It creates a focal point in the chaos.
And crucially, the paper says it is reversible. The tone sounds, and then it fades. Silence returns.
And that is the absolute key takeaway here. Real life isn't really reversible. If you make a choice in life, move to a new city, quit a job, you can't truly undo it. Time moves forward, and entropy happens.
Right, there are consequences.
But a musical tone allows us to interact with the foundational structure of reality, that act of breaking symmetry, at a scale that is safe.
It's like a sandbox mode for existence.
It's consensual.
Yeah.
It's not traumatic. We are practicing the act of existence without the permanent baggage.
Yeah.
We get to touch the ache, we feel that vibration, and then we let it go. We practice coming into being and then fading back out.
Okay, so we have the silence, which is this kind of scary potential, and we have the single tone, which is the first safe step into reality. But we don't just listen to dial tones for fun.
Right.
We
Yeah.
listen to songs, we listen to intricate symphonies and jazz and pop music. This brings us to section 3. Building coherence through pattern and jitter.
Mhm.
This is how we organize that silence. This is something we can actually surf.
Right. The paper talks about structural sincerity. This is the idea that music organizes silence into a meaningful structure.
Yeah.
And the author gives these really fascinating, almost cosmogenic-like, universe-creating definitions for the basic elements of music.
Yeah, melody, harmony, and rhythm. I loved these definitions. They are not what you learn in piano lessons. They're much, much deeper. Let's break them down. First, melody. The paper calls it the vertical slice.
Yes. Think of the vertical axis on a graph, or just up and down. Each note creates a distinction from the previous state. It's a step. It breaks the status quo of the moment before it.
It moves things.
It moves things. If I sing a note and then I move up a third, I have created a new reality. I have climbed a step.
So it's the narrative, right? It's the what happens next of the song.
Exactly. It drives the distinction forward in time. Then we have harmony, which is defined as lateral coherence.
Lateral meaning sideways.
Right. Multiple constraints supporting one another simultaneously. It's the context that holds the melody up.
Okay.
If melody is the protagonist walking down the street, harmony is the street itself. The buildings, the weather, the lighting. It tells you how to feel about the melody.
Ah, yeah. A C major chord feels totally different from a C diminished chord, even if the melody note on top is the same.
It changes the entire environment. And then rhythm.
This was my favorite definition of the 3. The temporal ledger, or chronoledger.
The chronoledger. I love that term so much. It instantiates pulse and tempo. It's the accounting system of time within the song. It tells you when things happen and creates the grid that the melody and harmony live on.
It effectively creates its own timeline, doesn't it? When a song starts, it establishes its own version of time.
It does. It completely overrides the clock on the wall. The song has its own internal logic of time. Without the chronoledger, the melody and harmony would just float aimlessly. Rhythm pins them to existence.
But here is where the source takes a bit of a swipe at modern technology, which I found really interesting. It talks about human versus algorithm, or what it calls the jitter.
This is so important, especially right now in the age of AI music and perfectly quantized, gridlocked beats. The paper asks, why does statistically flawless algorithmic music so often feel hollow?
Yeah, it feels dead.
It feels dead. Why?
Because it's too perfect.
Because it lacks what the paper calls resonant jitter.
Jitter. Usually we think of jitter as a bad thing, like a glitch in a video game or you've had too much coffee.
But in this context, it's the soul. Human musicians introduce these tiny micro variations. Maybe the drummer is a millisecond behind the beat. We call that laying back in the pocket to create a groove.
Right.
Maybe the singer hits the note a little sharp before sliding down into it. The timbre of their voice changes slightly with every breath because the lungs are physical organs that get tired.
And the paper says these aren't mistakes.
No, not at all. They are signatures of authentic presence. They represent the irreducible complexity of participation. It's the evidence that a living consciousness is grappling with the constraints of the music.
The struggle.
Without the jitter, there's no struggle. Without struggle, there's no ache. And without the ache, it doesn't resonate with our own messy experience of being alive.
That makes so much sense. It's why a drum machine can sound cool, but a live drummer hits you in the chest emotionally.
You're feeling their jitter.
You're hearing their nervous system interacting with the instrument in real time.
Exactly. If the grid is too perfect, it feels like the Matrix. It feels like a simulation. The jitter reminds us that there is a human on the other side of those sound waves. It's a signal that says, I am here, and I am trying my best to maintain this pattern.
It's the flaw that proves the reality.
Precisely.
Okay, so we have the music itself, the melody, harmony, rhythm, and that essential human jitter. But music doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in an ear, or really in a mind. Section 4 is all about the listener as the witness.
And this flips the whole script. We tend to think of listening as passive. You sit there, you press play, and the sound just hits you like rain. You're just a bucket collecting the water.
But that's not what this is saying.
Not at all. The source argues that listening is an active slice operation.
Okay, so this is the subjective versus objective thing. A record, like the file of this deep dives right now, it's just data. It's just potential vibrations waiting to happen.
Exactly. It's pure potential. It only becomes music when a witness chooses to engage with it.
Right.
Think about the cocktail party effect. You're at a party, it's loud, there's noise everywhere, but you can choose to focus on one single conversation. You physically tune out all the rest.
Your brain just filters it.
That act of attention, that filtering, creates a bridge between your subjective internal experience and the objective sound waves in the air.
So you create the reality of the song by choosing to listen to it. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it.
In this framework, if no one hears it, it remains potential. It remains in the void or close to it. It doesn't become music until a consciousness carves it out of the background noise.
And the most important part the paper emphasizes here is that this is voluntary participation.
Yes. Unlike, say, the traffic noise outside your window.
Where?
Or the weather.
Or just the general chaos of life. We are forced to exist in the world. We are forced to deal with gravity and taxes and time. We don't get a choice about hearing the construction work next door.
But musical witnessing is completely voluntary. We choose to maintain the constraints of the song. We agree to play by its rules for 3 minutes.
I opt in.
And that choice is what the paper calls authentic participation. We are saying, for the next 4 minutes, I agree that this rhythm is the heartbeat of the world. I agree that this melody matters more than anything else.
We are co-creators of the experience. We aren't just consumers. We are the hardware that the software runs on.
That's a great way to put it.
And when we really commit to that choice, when we really give ourselves over to it, something magical happens. This leads us to what I think is the deepest part of this deep dive.
Right.
Section 5, controlled decoherence.
Or what we usually just call the flow state.
Right.
This is the payoff. This is why we do it. This is why we buy the concert tickets and the expensive headphones and sit in the dark.
So we've built up all this structure, melody, harmony, rhythm. We're actively witnessing it, and then we get lost. The paper talks about decoherence as the softening of identity boundaries.
In physics, decoherence is about a quantum system losing its weird quantumness and becoming definite. But here, the author is using it to describe the psychological state, where the distinction between self and other, or inside and outside, it all begins to blur.
It's that moment in a concert where you forget you have a body, you forget you have a name, you are just the song.
Yes, the paper mentions a neurological link here too. Theta brainwave dominance. That's that dreamlike state you get into right before you fall asleep or during really deep meditation.
Right. Now, normally, if your identity starts dissolving, that's terrifying.
It's madness. That's the fear of death, the fear of me ceasing to exist. If you started feeling your ego dissolve while you were driving a car in a business meeting, you'd have a full-blown panic attack.
You'd think you were dying or going crazy.
Of course.
But in music, it feels amazing. Why? Why is it bliss in a song but terror in real life?
Because it is controlled. The music provides a container. The rhythm keeps going. The form of the song persists. Even as your sense of self softens and kind of melts into the sound, the structure of the music holds you. It keeps you safe.
It's like being in a shark cage. You're in the water with the danger, the dissolution, the vast ocean of the void, but the bars of the cage keep you safe.
That's a perfect analogy. Or think of like a roller coaster. You experience the physical sensation of falling, which should trigger a death response. But because you know you are strapped in, it becomes a thrill. Music allows the witness to approach compression, that point of total unity or the void, without collapsing. You get to visit the state of non-existence, or maybe all existence, and you get to come back.
The experience is described so beautifully in the text. The self seems to expand to contain the music, or the music contracts into the self.
It creates a temporary unity.
Temporal order becomes less important than melodic coherence. You lose track of time, but you know exactly where you are in the song.
That is the magic trick. You are practicing death and rebirth over and over and over again within the safety of a 4-minute pop song. You let go of the rigid definition of you, float in the collective emotion of the music, and then the song guides you gently back to shore.
Which brings us to the inevitable end. Section 6, the cycle. Because every single song must end.
The inevitability of silence. And the source insists this isn't a failure. It's not that the music ran out. It is the completion of a cycle.
Yeah.
Void to tone to pattern to flow, and then right back to the void.
It's a loop. And the paper makes some really interesting comparisons here to other art forms just to show why music is so unique in this cycle. It compares music to painting and language.
Right, so compare music to a painting. A painting is fixed coherence. The constraints are stable. You look away, you look back, the Mona Lisa is still smiling the same way.
It exists all at once in space.
Yes, you can walk around it. You can control how you view it. The painting doesn't demand your time in the same way music does.
Or language. We're using words right now.
And words are symbols that are attempting to pin down meaning permanently. We try to freeze an idea in a sentence. We write contracts. We write definitions. Language tries to stop time. It tries to say, this means this and only this forever.
But music.
Music is time. Music is the art of constraint unfolding. A note only exists in the exact moment it is sounding. As soon as you hear it, it's already dying.
You can't hold on to it.
You can't. If you pause a song, the music ceases to exist.
Yeah.
You can't freeze a note and still have it be a note. It just becomes a static tone.
That's remarkably poignant when you think about it. It's almost tragic. You have to let it go to experience it.
And it teaches the witness, the listener, that coherence is temporary, that constraints are temporary, and most importantly, that dissolution is not destruction. Just because the note ends doesn't mean the beauty is gone. In fact, it had to end to make room for the silence over the next note.
It mirrors the actual speed of consciousness. We don't live in static paintings. We live in a flowing river of time. Music is the only art form that moves at the same speed we do.
Exactly. It models a transformation of identity. You are not the same person at the end of the symphony that you were at the beginning. You have traveled through that time, and the music has changed you. It mimics the life cycle of an organism or a thought or a civilization.
So what does this all mean? Why do we do it? Is it just for the dopamine hit? Section 7 frames music as ontological practice.
This is the why. The big cosmogenic function. The paper argues that music isn't just decoration. It's not just cheesecake for the auditory cortex, as the psychologist Steven Pinker once famously called it.
Yeah, he thought music was just a happy accident of evolution.
Right. This source argues the exact opposite. It says music is a simulation and a training ground for existence itself.
We are training for reality?
Think about the steps we just covered.
Hmm.
When we listen, we practice the fundamental movements of being alive.
Okay.
First, breaking symmetry. We focus our attention on the signal. We decide what matters in the noise. Second, maintaining coherence. We follow the melody and predict the patterns. We create order. Third, dissolving safely. We let our emotions flow and our boundaries soften. We accept change and impermanence. And fourth, returning intact. The song ends and we are still here. We're back.
It's like a flight simulator for the soul. We practice taking off, flying, dealing with turbulence, and then landing the plane safely.
And we practice dealing with that ache we talked about at the very beginning, the wound between potential and actual.
The paper has this beautiful line, music makes the wound between potential and actual temporarily bearable.
It transforms the ache of existence into beauty. It takes the pain of being separate, the loneliness of being an individual, and it turns it into a harmony. It says, yes, you are separate, but you fit into this larger pattern. It validates the struggle of being alive.
There's even a bit of evolutionary speculation here. The author suggests that the human capacity for music might be the capacity to witness reality's own self-actualization.
Yeah.
That sounds huge.
It is huge. It creates a feedback loop. By witnessing the music, we are participating in the universe knowing itself. We're validating the patterns of reality.
What?
It suggests that consciousness and music might have co-evolved because they need each other. Consciousness needs a safe way to practice being, and music needs a witness in order to exist.
So we aren't just biological machines that learn to hum.
We are creatures that hum to deal with the impossible weight of being conscious.
Man, I am never going to listen to Spotify the same way again, it feels like. Like a responsibility almost, but a joyous one.
It elevates the act of listening. You aren't just killing time anymore. You are engaging in a fundamental practice of being human. You are exercising your ability to bridge the gap between chaos and order.
So to recap, we've gone from the void, through the tone, into the pattern. We've experienced the flow and returned to silence. We've seen how music is a safe container for the scariest parts of our psyche.
And we've seen that silence isn't just empty space. It's the clay from which the music is sculpted.
Which brings us to the end of our deep dive. The paper concludes with this really elegant idea of patterned silence and unpatterned music.
Music is patterned silence. Silence is unpatterned music. They are two sides of the same coin, the eternal conversation between the manifest and the void.
And we, the listeners, we are the bridge.
We are the witnesses.
So before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought, something to try right now, as soon as this audio stops.
We talked about how listening is an active choice. It's an ontological practice.
So here's the challenge. When we stop talking in a few seconds, don't take your headphones off right away. Don't just click to the next episode.
Listen to the silence that follows.
But don't just treat it as the end. Apply the same level of attention to that silence that you gave to our words or to your favorite song. Treat the silence as the final note.
If music is practice for being real, then silence is practice for what lies beyond it.
See if you can hear the potential waiting in the static.
See if you can witness the void without looking away.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Now listen.